Welcome to another Alia Graphic Creator Chat. I'm Georgi Rutia from Kingston Libraries in Victoria, speaking from Bunurong land of the Kulin Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded, and we need a treaty. Now, today's Creator Chat is the last one for this year, and we close this year with Jason Pamment, and I'm really excited, actually, about talking to him. And Jason recently published Tresure in the Lake, a middle grade graphic novel published by Harper in North America, and Allen Unwin in Australia and New Zealand. Jason has worked for many years in animation, commercials, TV, video games, designing environments, background artwork, things like that. Tresure in the Lake is his first graphic novel, and I certainly hope it's the first one of many. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks for having me. I'm Jason, and I'd like to acknowledge the Kaurna people of the custodian lands and waters of the Adelaide region, where I'm speaking from today. And I'd like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present.
Excellent. Well, tell us a bit about yourself, Jason. Who's Jason Pamment?
Well, I am now a graphic novelist, but I'm traditionally an animator and production designer. Most of my work has been doing concept art and stuff for film and music videos and things like that. But since this year, I've kind of moved into graphic novels, and really excited by it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we'll definitely talk about comics today and graphic novels. We'll start a little bit going back. So can you talk to us about the kind of work you've been doing for animation and commercials and video games and all that? And what is it that you did exactly?
Yeah, sure. Well, my career's kind of spanned a few different roles. I started as a kind of a concept artist, doing a lot of like environment designs. So I think a lot of the productions I've worked on have been 3D animation series. So a lot of it's been like designing environments and characters to then be built into 3D in the computer. Yeah. From there, I moved into art direction. So that's like managing a team of artists to create a kind of look. Done a lot of 2D animation as well, doing painted backgrounds for 2D animation, a little bit of direction, and kind of by the end of that, kind of moved back around to doing more production and concept design again. And that's for short films, music videos, video games. A lot of the work is in commercials. There's just a lot of money in commercials, and a lot of animated content gets created for that. So doing all sorts of things.
That's cool, and I think we'll talk about it later, because I think that kind of work probably prepare you for the kind of backgrounds and the arts that you have in Tresure in the Lake, because that's one of the standouts in Tresure in the Lake. I feel like all the environments and all the backgrounds are just beautiful. Anyway, what's it like working with other people in a team and developing all those concepts? Because as a graphic novel creator, you're on your own, but that's very different.
I think that was maybe part of the reason why I moved into doing graphic novels. In a way, I like working in a team, and it's nice to bounce ideas off of people, and there's like a collaborative kind of aspect to it that's nice. But especially doing kind of art direction, you are managing a team a lot, and kind of trying to keep everything consistent. And that's that kind of takes you away from doing artwork in a way. It can be nice. It can be kind of energetic, and projects kind of get done a bit faster as well than graphic novels. But I'm someone that does like working in isolation. Like I I'm perfectly happy just kind of like working away in my room for extended periods. So so it wasn't a hard transition to make, really. Especially by the end, I think I was doing a lot of at the start there was a lot of animation studios in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So I'd be working in-house, but by the end I was doing all remote work anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was essentially by myself a lot anyway.
Yeah. And I think that the last 2 years have been perfect. If you like working in isolation, well, we've all been isolating.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a lot of like graphic novels being created during this time.
Perfect timing. Yeah. Well, moving on to comics. Did you read any comics as a kid? And if so, which ones? Or when did you start reading comics? Or
yeah, I didn't read that much as a kid, really. I don't think there was a lot that really appealed to me as a kid. I didn't. Maybe I just didn't find the right ones, or I kind of didn't know how to read like the DC and Marvel stuff that was around a lot. But I really liked Tintin. That was like the first one that I really got into. But outside of that, I probably wasn't a huge reader in general. I really love like Roald Dahl and yeah, I love Roald Dahl and like just Goosebumps and stuff like that. Like I got through all that, but yeah, I didn't really find a lot of comics outside of like smaller comic strips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like we had books of like Garfield, that kind of stuff, which I liked as a kid.
They still get borrowed a lot.
Yeah,
Tintin and Garfield, that they're always being borrowed at the library, always.
Yep.
Yeah. Personally, I'm always on the Asterix team instead of Tintin. But
yeah, it's funny that they kind of goes both sides like that. I never really got into Asterix for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it felt a bit like harder to get into for me or something.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you weren't reading many comics as a kid. You were doing all this graphic design and all that. What's your comic origin story then?
I think
what's the moment that suddenly you started paying attention to comics and you decided,
I think
this is what I want to do.
Yeah. It was probably around like 2009, 2010 sort of thing. I think probably started reading and seeing different comics, particularly like illustrators that had moved into or like people that were doing animation that kind of were also doing comics. I started seeing online, and then kind of found out about more independent comics, like particularly I think the Nobrow publisher in the UK doing really interesting stuff. I think I read like Luke Pearson, who did the Hildefolk series, and John McNaught, who I really love. So I started reading those and thinking, you can actually like tell stories all by yourself in this kind of format, and it's really fun, and it maybe suits me a bit. And then I think I read there's a short story by Emily Carroll called His Face Will Red that I really loved, and I read like 100 times. It's one of my favorite short comic stories. And there was the project that Treasure on the Lake came from, originally planning as like an animated piece, and I started thinking that it could suit comics, or at least I just really wanted to create one. So I think on a trip to like me and my wife went overseas for 5 months, and we were traveling around South America, and I just started like writing notes and and little drawing little environments and stuff to start fleshing it out. And I think that's pretty much the origin for me. But it was definitely seeing those different comics, and kind of finding out about that world of comics that weren't particularly that weren't exactly like, like superhero comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing that I had a place in like a readership, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, like Hilda, for example, that's an excellent series, and when that's again being borrowed constantly at the libraries, when kids discover it, they really get sucked in with that one.
Yeah,
such a beautiful series.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So you mentioned that when you were traveling, you were doing notes and little sketches and things. So do you work with pen and paper, or do you work digitally, or a mix of both? Or
a bit of a mix, but most of it's digital. But I start with pencil just because I'm drawing really little and doing like little thumbnails.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of start on the computer really, in the sense that I'm doing most of the like outlining of the story just on like a word process or something.
Yeah.
And then once I've got that kind of to a state that I can start playing around with different sequences and ideas for visuals, then I'll start just in paper drawing like really, really tiny little drawings, as small as I can, but still making it kind of legible.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually I have to make the jump to digital and start working it out properly, but I really like starting just pencil and paper. Yeah. But all the finished artwork is done in Photoshop, essentially.
Yeah. I find that a lot of creators these days are working like that. They start with pencil, just and very often they say, I can feel it a bit more. I can, it's more organic. But then, I move on to digital.
Yeah, and it's a lot faster. Like, I think it's just when you're doing the thumbnails, you want to do it as fast as you can. And if you do something wrong in Photoshop and it comes up with an error message, it kind of breaks your concentration or something.
Yeah.
And also, like the computer is just like an entertainment device, so like it gets really distracting. So it's nice to just get away and go somewhere else.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's start talking about Tresure in the Lake. So excellent debut. I really love the book. Now, for those who don't know about it or haven't read it, can you tell us a little bit what the book is about?
Yeah, sure. The story follows two best friends, Iris and Sam, who are from kind of a sleepy country town, and they're kind of on the verge of high school, so they're like growing apart. And that's when they stumble upon this forgotten town at the bottom of a dry lake bed. That's kind of on the outskirts of their town. And there they kind of interact with some of the previous occupants of the town, kind of have a magical kind of journey through the town, and eventually have to reconnect and kind of refine their friendship to kind of save their friendship and also to save themselves from the town. But it's about like friendship and kind of like what happens when you and your best friend have kind of wildly different life aspirations.
Yeah.
I moved a lot when I was growing up, so saying goodbye friends became really common to me. So I think that probably had a grounding in the work.
Yeah. It's like when I was about 10, we moved as well, and I really resented that. Because I lost a lot of friends, and and then I made new friends as well. But it does mark you. Definitely. And it's also, apart from everything you said, it also has a bit of a mystery, a bit of fantasy, and it's good stuff. Anyway, the visual style is quite beautiful, and I really love the use of color and light. I think you use that really well all throughout, and the characters and the environments and all that. I was going to ask, was there any work that kind of inspired you for that? But, from what we talked before, I think that maybe the work that you did before kind of, influenced a lot.
A bit. It's funny, like when I started, I think because it was my first time trying to do comics, wasn't really sure how to go to it. And I think when I started, I was a bit like, I want to make something that doesn't look like a comic. Like I was going to paint it all or not use any line work and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And try to, reinvent everything stupidly. And eventually I kind of started coming back further and further to something that looked a bit more like a comic to me. But I think because originally I didn't have any line work, so it was all painted, and I think I realized that there's something about black ink on paper that like feels nice, like you can see the process of it, or it's akin to like writing or something like that. But there was it's similar in ways to there's a film I made with a collaborator, Ari Gibson, that I think it's called Motorbike. That kind of like maybe the kind of drawing from that a lot. I think I even use some of the same brushes and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like comic books that I'm drawing from, there's a artist called Drew Wing, I think Wing, who made a series called Margot Malou. And I think I was looking at that at the time and really liking this. He's like got really beautiful colors and line work and stuff. So I think I was referencing that to some extent. But yeah, really just trying to piece it together so that it felt right to me, really. Because it's kind of like a different, it's a completely different thing. So like, I think, I started out just thinking I'll just do it like an animation. But it just didn't quite fit. Like it wasn't very readable compared to other comics, I think.
And I think readability, especially for this kind of middle grade kind of level, is really important.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tresure in the Lake is, it's for kids. And on the surface, it's a great adventure. And as you say, it's about friendship. But then, as I mentioned, like there are elements of fantasy, elements of mystery. And on closer reading, I feel like there's a lot more going on. And there are little visual clues here and there. Was it hard to juggle what clues you put there and how you put them? But still keeping the mystery?
Yeah, that was hard. I think I went back and forth a lot on that. I think even before I talked to an editor, it was even more mysterious. And I think maybe he helped Andrew, who's at Harper, kind of helped me clear up a few things in the story to make it not too ambiguous. But I really like, I think I like all stories that I like have an element of kind of interpretation in them. So I definitely didn't want to make it too clear or too concrete what happens in the story. And it seems like I've gone, like reading reviews and stuff of the book, people bring up the same things as negatives or positives, depending on how much they like piecing together things. Or some people say like, I like that I had to study this panel to know what happened. And then some people were saying like, there's plot holes all over the place. And I'm like, oh, I guess you just don't want to have that. But
because it also doesn't even have a very clear, everything's tied up kind of ending. It's a bit of an open ending as well, which some people react to as well. But I love open endings. So
I love that in films. I think if everything's tied up, it feels a bit like claustrophobic to me. Like nothing exists outside this little story. Whereas if it's open ended, it feels more like real or something to me.
And I think it leaves the reader thinking about it more. Hopefully, hopefully they'll be thinking about it a bit more, and so that the book will stay with them longer. I have to say, like, one of my favorite shows of all time, if not my favorite, is Twin Peaks, and that's as open-ended, as mysterious as you can get. So yeah, and I love Kafka and his books, and they are very
exactly
open-ended, and you really need to think when you're reading those. So
in this book, the last page kind of ends on a mystery about what is in like this chest in Treasure in the Lake, and the editor suggested, like, oh, maybe we should see what's in it. And I've thought about it a lot, and I thought, oh, we probably shouldn't, because that could be up to the reader. Like, if you believe everything that's happened in the book, then you will believe that the chest is filled with certain things, and if you don't, then vice versa. I feel like we're just limiting if we say it's one thing.
Good move.
Yeah.
I approve. All right. Look, there are some beautiful scenes and panels without words in this graphic novel, and I feel like this is not very common in kids' graphic novels. But they work beautifully in your books. Sometimes they add a little bit of mystery and suspense. Sometimes they just give us time to think and just take the visuals in. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you were thinking when you were designing these silent scenes?
Yeah, that might come a bit from my history doing animation, where like there's an idea of like not showing and telling, kind of like, if you're depicting it visually, then you don't need to then have this text. But I think particularly for this story, it's like a story about two kids that like discover this town, and there's like I wanted to create like an immersive kind of quality to that. Like if you were discovering it yourself, there's like this air of mystery and kind of wonder. And I think if characters were speaking at the same time, it kind of gets in the way. I think there's a graphic novelist called Renee French who kind of her thought is that any text in a graphic novel is like poison, I think, in her words. I might be paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But and I probably wouldn't go that far, but there is something about there's like a magical quality to just watching characters kind of moving through a landscape. Like even in film, like I think one of my favorite films is There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson. And there's this scene at the start where this character is just like in this mine shaft for like 15 minutes, like doing all this kind of complicated things in silence, and it's just like captivating. So I think part of it was trying to capture that kind of thing, like just watching a character. But also I personally don't really like a lot of text in graphic novels in a way. Like I think when I'm reading it, like when you're watching a film, a character can speak and you can watch their performance at the same time. In graphic novel, you kind of, your eyes are like darting back and forth between text and the visuals. And I'd rather just show that visually than have it explained. I think also, like as a kid, I was if I'm reading a comic and there's just like more text than images, it feels a bit daunting to me or something. But I think it comes back to probably like seeing the sequences when I'm planning them as almost like a movie in my head that I'm trying to get down, and a lot of the time that doesn't have dialogue in it.
Look, Alfred Hitchcock said actually something very similar, and his philosophy was that if I can show it visually without any dialogue, then that's what I'll do. And there are. I feel like here in Australia, actually, at the moment, we've got some great visual storytellers. Campbell White with Home Time. Some great scenes as well that without any text, and Chris Gooch with Under Earth as well, especially.
Yeah,
know, he had a lot of really visual storytelling there. So
I think like some of my favorite, like I mentioned before, John McNaught, who makes comics that are almost completely wordless, that have amazing atmosphere to them as well. And I think one of the biggest, I didn't mention before, but one of the biggest influences I had starting it was reading Sean Tan's The Arrival, which is completely wordless and it's just beautiful. It doesn't really take anything away from having no dialogue. So I think,
it's part of what it's part of what it makes that graphic novel great. You know, it's really universal. You know, told purely visually, and it's just astounding. Well, on this kind of topic, we've gone completely off tangent. But on this kind of thing, actually, I was talking to a friend recently, and I recommended to him a French graphic novel called Alone by Chaboute. And again, it's just, there are hardly any words in the whole graphic novel, and is just a beautiful piece of work. Highly recommend it. If you find it somewhere.
I've seen it, but I haven't read it yet.
I love his style as well. Anyway, so Treasure in the Lake, how long did it take, more or less?
It's hard to tell. like in terms of just pure like years from starting to ending, it was like 2010 or something. I started just doing little notes and trying to piece it together. Obviously it was all done outside of my normal work, and it was very like stop start. Like I'd put it down for sometimes even a year or so, and then pick it back up again, and then I'd work on it for like a week or two when I've got like a big break, and then put it down for months again. So it's hard to know exactly. I'm working on another book at the moment that's I think going to take me like a year and a half to 2 years. So that's more like a full-time thing. But I think there was a lot of false starts, and like I kind of completely rewrote most of it like 2 or 3 times. So yeah, they take a long time to make.
So a new book, you probably can't tell us much because you're at the early stages. But you know, is it going to be another kind of middle grade, or you know, is it going to be an adventure? Is it going to be similar, or you're trying something different?
It's middle grade, maybe a tiny bit younger. I'm not exactly sure. But it's I can't say too much because it's not announced yet, but it should be announced pretty soon. And it's kind of based on again my experience. I think I went to like 9 or 10 different schools growing up. So it's about starting a new school, but kind of in a fantastical setting, and kind of based around where we went on holiday a lot with my dad. Had like this holiday shack on the York Peninsula in Adelaide, on South Australia, sorry. So it's kind of based around that environment a bit, with like tide pools, and this place where we went, they'd have like beaches that went out for like a kilometer, and just with like all these tide pools and and like sandbars and stuff like that. So it's kind of based a little bit on that environment and that world.
Excellent. I look forward to it. Good stuff. I feel like in the last 2-3 years we've seen more and more graphic novels in Australia being published, and hopefully publishers are supporting them. Thank you, Allen Unwin.
Thanks.
They're actually one of the big supporters of graphic novels.
They've been amazing. I love working with them. Good
stuff. So kind of wrapping up, We always ask our guests to tell us about 3 comics or graphic novels that, you know, either they've read recently, or 3 that inspired Tresure in the Lake, or you know, whatever way you want to take it. Just 3 graphic novels.
Yeah,
up to you.
I probably mentioned a few already, so I'll try to think of some different ones. There was one I read Chen Wang's The Prince and the Dressmaker recently, and that was really great. Yeah, that the beautiful drawings and characters, and like really unique kind of story it feels really tight and classic at the same time. So yeah, definitely check that out. I thought that was really great. There's another one called Stepping Stones by Lucy Knisley. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce, but that was about her growing up on like a little farm in America, and kind of have a family with like children from different parents kind of like integrating together, and I thought that was really nicely told and really cute. And outside of that, I think of something. I read one of my favorite ones was Sabrina, which was it's like an adult comic by Nick Drenasa, I think his name is. I think that was like shortlisted for like a really prestigious literary award, and it was like the first graphic novel to do it. So that drew me in, and then I really loved it. So yeah, those are kind of come to mind.
3 great recommendations. Really great books, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. Can I recommend you one as well?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think it's probably it's one of my top 3 this year for sure, and I think you'll appreciate it. The Magic Fish.
Oh, I haven't read it yet, but I've seen the cover everywhere, and I know that a lot of people love it, so I need to get it.
Such a beautiful graphic novel.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's the final Creator Chat for this year. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And, you know, I hope Tresure in the Lake is well read, well borrowed, and you know, and if you like it and borrow it at the library, then maybe, you know, you can go to the shop and buy it as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for doing this. Like, it's really great that you guys, you know, just doing this, kind of creating a record of all the comic creating that's going on. It's really great. Like I found it through Campbell White and the interview you guys did with Campbell White and Scrooge and Pat Grant, and that was great. So yeah.
Good guys.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Take care. And we'll speak again when you release the second one.
Yeah. Thank you.